I really love this back to school time of year. I used to love when I was a kid going like back to school shopping, getting all the supplies that I needed. Now this time of year around the fall is just kind of like stressful and busy for me, but I do really still like that feeling of kind of excitement in the air about going back to school, and every now and then I do like to treat myself to some back to school supplies as well. I'm Sarah. I am a second, almost third year PhD student, and I have ADHD, which is why I wanted to make this kind of back to school shopping supplies guide for university and college students, but the ADHD version of it. The YouTube channel How to ADHD recently put out a back to school supplies staples shopping haul that is for students with ADHD. That's really great, and I would highly recommend checking that out. But I did find that it was kind of a little bit more for like middle school and high school students, which is great, and like there's still a lot of really great supplies in there and tips in there for people with ADHD, for students with ADHD. But I decided to make this slightly different version of a back to school supplies shop for college and university students specifically, or grad students with ADHD like me. And I think that this will be especially helpful for like first year university and college students who may be going off to live in the dorms or living on their own for the first time, and who are thinking about maybe what to bring with them when they move off to college and start that journey. I personally did not know that I had ADHD when I was first starting my undergraduate degree, so this guide includes some things that I wish that I had then when I was going off to live in the campus dorms, and also some things that I find absolutely indispensable and super helpful to me now as a grad student. So first I'm just going to start with some very basic supplies that everyone's going to need. First of all, pens that you really like the feeling of writing with. That for me is super, super, super important. If a pen sucks, if I don't like the way it writes, it annoys me to no end. It frustrates me so much, and I'm not going to use it. So I really like using the V5 Precise pens from Pilot. I think that those are really good. So I buy a whole bunch of those before the beginning of the year, and I'm set. Also, I would recommend having a bunch of highlighters of all different colors, as well as a ton of sticky notes of all different colors. Color coding for me is really, really important. As someone who has ADHD, it really helps me organize my thoughts. And if you want to know more about that, I did make a video on some reading tips and guides for people with ADHD, and I talk about color coding and how I use that to help maximize my reading abilities and potentials, so you can check that out. Also, having flashcards I find are really, really helpful for studying for exams and tests and anything like that. Also getting ready for presentations, things like that. Flashcards are great. I also like to have them in various different colors as well, because I do also find that that's helpful for organizing my thoughts, especially when I'm studying for tests. I also sometimes use flashcards for writing essays and piecing together my various different thoughts and kind of visually laying out in front of me how I want to organize the essay. So they might be useful for that if that's kind of your style. But obviously my methods are not going to work for everyone. I think it is super helpful to have some flashcards, and I like having the big jumbo ones because you can fit more on there. Another super helpful tool is a whiteboard, preferably one that you can hang up on the wall, or if you have the space, even one with wheels that you can just push around the room. So I find whiteboards super helpful for keeping track of what I need to do during the day or the week or the month. I write down my to-do lists and have them there in like big letters right in front of me so that I can see exactly what I need to do, exactly what I should be doing. It helps me stay on task and helps me manage my time a little bit better. Also, I find whiteboards really, really helpful for studying for tests and exams. So I recently studied for my qualifying exams, my comprehensive exams, and I found that my whiteboard was super, super helpful for that because I could write down the information that I wanted to remember, and it would always be there right in front of me every time I came into the office, and it would just help me remember things, especially dates. I had a lot of dates written down on there. I'm so bad with dates, so bad with numbers, so having things like written out in front of me, something that I would constantly be looking at in the office, was super helpful. Another thing I would recommend getting is a good planner or a physical calendar. So I know lots of us probably use like digital calendars. We use digital ways of planning on our phones and computers and things. And I think that that can be really, really helpful, but it's also helpful to have a physical version of something. So if you have a calendar up on your wall, again, same with the whiteboard, you're going to be looking at it all the time and seeing when you have due dates, when you have, important tests or things like that. It's really helpful to just have that in front of you in a physical manner. So with digital things, I find that it's really like hit or miss for using them. Sometimes I really like using digital calendars and planners. Sometimes I just completely stop using them. So I find that it's really helpful to have that actual physical thing there. All of last year, I didn't use a physical planner, and I was just using like something online to manage my days and to figure out my to-do lists and things, and that was kind of helpful. But I think having the physical planner that I have now is even better. I'm more motivated to use it because it is this physical thing I have with me, and also because I can make it aesthetic, I can decorate it, I can make it look how I want to, and I find that if something is visually pleasing to me, I'm going to be more motivated to actually use it. Moving on to some desk items, something I think can be really helpful is having a desk organizer. I find that this is a really great little tool to have on my desk so that I am not misplacing my pens or completely forgetting where I left my USB sticks if they're all right there in that same spot. With this organizer, everything has its place. I know where everything is, and it's just easy access, easy use. Also, as someone with ADHD, I am a fidgeter. I am definitely a fidgeter, and I really like sensory items. So I think that having some sensory items and fidget items on my desk is super helpful. So you might want a fidget spinner on your desk or something like that. I also have a fidget cube that I use quite often. I think it's pretty fun to just do all the little thingies. Whenever I feel the urge to fidget, this is helpful to have. Or my personal favorite, kinetic sand. So this is the children's a children's box of kinetic sand. You can get adult versions that are a little Zen garden or something that you can kind of play in with the kinetic sand, but I like the children's one. It's got some fun colors and stuff, and it's cheap. And this is just so satisfying to play with. I absolutely love playing with it. So I keep some on my desk to just play with whenever I feel the need to fidget. I keep it in a little mason jar here. And yeah, it's just so much fun. It feels so good. It's so satisfying. You can get it in all different colors and mix the colors together, and it's just fun, I already mentioned sticky notes. I think that it's helpful to either have a sticky note pad or just a little note block pad on your desk at all times, so that if you have any just fleeting thoughts or random ideas that come to you, as you probably will, you will have something just right there that you can quickly jot it down on so that you won't forget, because if you're anything like me, your memory probably sucks and you think that you're going to remember something, but you obviously never do, because that's always how it goes. So yeah, just having something on your desk that you can quickly write down notes on is very helpful. Another suggestion for your desk is to get a Pomodoro timer. So I don't actually have one of these. I don't have a physical Pomodoro timer, but I know that a lot of people like them and find that they really help. There are a lot of apps that you can use for this Pomodoro method, which is basically just timing yourself to work for 25 minutes and then a 5-minute break, or whatever times work for you. You can set it to whatever you want. So I use apps for this, but I know that people also really like having physical timers, because having that physical thing somehow makes it feel a bit more real, if that makes sense. I don't know. This is just something that I find as well. Like, having a virtual app for something is helpful, but I do find that like actually having like a physical timer or a physical planner just makes things feel more real to me. I don't know if anyone else feels the same way or if I'm just kind of weird, but yeah, a lot of people like those, so I'm probably gonna get one of those soon as well. Another little helpful thing to just keep on your desk while you're working is a water bottle, but one that actually like has the times of day marked out on it and little like measuring points so that you can actually track how much water you're drinking in a day and make sure that you're drinking as much as you want to be. I find that that can be really helpful for me because I often totally forget how much water I've been drinking and how much water I need to be drinking. So having that in front of me is like a constant reminder to be drinking more water, which I really need to be doing. Also, this isn't necessarily something for like people with ADHD, but this is just something that I find super helpful as a student in general. It is this book holder. So you can put your book on here while you're reading it, and then you can just like take notes while this holds the book open for you and holds it open to whatever page you're working on. So I find that this is super helpful. This one has like a little stand. I think that this one is meant to be like a cookbook holder because it's so big, but I work with a lot of big books, so this has been helpful for me. If you know anything about me at all, you may know that I am not a morning person in any way, shape, or form. I have a lot of difficulty waking up in the mornings. I really struggle to get out of bed. So one thing that I think can be really helpful for people who feel the same way is to have an analog alarm clock. I know that most of us tend to just use our phones for our alarm clocks, which is fine, but having an analog alarm clock, especially one that you can place on the other side of the room, is a really good way to force yourself to get up in the morning and actually go to your classes. So that was definitely something that I struggled with a bit in first year, but it did help having a roommate who had a analog alarm clock, and she would completely sleep through her alarm. Like, she would not wake up for it. She was dead to the world. It would wake me up though, so I would have to get out of bed and go over to her side of the room and turn off her alarm for her. And that was actually really helpful at like ensuring that I would actually go to class, because otherwise without that I probably would have missed so many classes just refusing to get out of bed because they were all in the morning, and yeah, that's just not me. So that was really helpful. I know that they also have like analog alarm clocks that actually move, so you can get some that like will jump off your bedside table and actually roll away from you. My sister had one of these in high school, which I think helped her get out of bed too. Just like roll off her bedside table and she'd have to get out of bed to turn it off. I know that there are also some apps that you can get on your phone where you'll have an alarm clock that won't stop going off until you take a picture of something. So a lot of people make it, the toilet, because they go to the bathroom first thing in the morning, right? So if you have this set up on your phone, you'll have to actually get up out of bed, take a picture of the toilet or, your yoga mat or whatever you do first thing in the morning for the alarm to actually shut off, which I think is really helpful because I also have a big problem with just like snoozing things repeatedly and often being late because of that. Something else that's likely to be super helpful for those of us with ADHD are noise canceling headphones. So they can be like a little bit expensive, but I think that they can also be indispensable, especially if you are easily distracted by sounds around you. So these are great. I use them all the time while studying, and they just help me out so much. I really wish that I had noise canceling headphones when I was living in the dorms because, oh my God, it could get loud sometimes, and even though usually at the time I was probably among the people being the loudest in my dormitory, it still would have been helpful for those moments where I wanted some peace and quiet so that I'd be able to study. So noise canceling headphones are great. You can also just get like earplugs or whatever if you don't want to actually invest in some headphones. Also, if you're going off to live in dorms or off campus somewhere and moving away from home, I would recommend bringing a big fuzzy blanket with you. So I think that just like having a big fuzzy blanket to like wrap yourself up in, especially in the fall and winter, have a nice cup of tea with it, it just makes like reading and studying so much more pleasant. It just makes it a much more enjoyable experience. So, you know, just little things like that that can improve your studying experience, I think are really helpful to have, because that just makes you a little bit more likely to actually want to do these things, even if they're not all that enjoyable necessarily. Along those lines, you should definitely bring your favorite tea, hot chocolate, coffee, whatever it may be with you to enjoy during those moments, and to have like a little reward for yourself when you're studying, and to give you that motivation to keep going. You can treat yourself with that every now and then. Also, if you have the means for it, getting one of those like fancy coffee maker things for your dorm would be a good idea. I know some people had that kind of thing when I was in my first year. I just had an electric kettle in my dorm room, which was great. I mean, it was super helpful to have, and I made a lot of tea and a lot of cups of noodle. Like way too many cups of noodle. And then my final recommendation for you, if you're a student with ADHD, would be to, if you can, invest in a tablet of some sort, like an iPad. So I know that it's super expensive and definitely not within everyone's budget, but honestly, this has been one of the most helpful things that I have ever used as a student. I'm someone who really likes to take handwritten notes, so I take all of those notes, most of them, on my iPad now, as opposed to just filling up various notebooks. When I graduated from my undergrad, I had like 4 cardboard boxes filled with notebooks upon notebooks upon notebooks, and like there was just so much. It was so disorganized. If I wanted to go back and look at my notes from previous years and find something, it would be absolutely impossible. It would be such a mess to go through all of that. So having a iPad where I can just easily organize all those notes and collect them together has been like absolutely game changing for me. I'm also someone who really likes to like annotate while I'm reading, and the iPad has been like super helpful for that. So I don't have to be like printing out PDFs and articles anymore. I can just easily read and annotate on there. So if that's something that you like to do, maybe think about investing in an iPad if you can. Obviously, I know not everyone can. And that, my friends, is it. Those are the main suggestions that I have for things that you can buy for back to school shopping if you're a university or college student, but the ADHD friendly version. So I would also like to know if you have any suggestions for things that you think would be helpful for students with ADHD, especially, you know, going off to live in the dorms or anything like that. So please leave any suggestions that you have in the comments down below, and thank you very, very much for watching. I would also be interested to know your suggestions for like future videos that you want to see from this channel. I do a lot of vlogs on this channel, and I'm planning to do a lot more like ADHD content, as well as some like grad school content, and make some hopefully helpful videos for things like that. So yeah, let me know if you have any suggestions. Thank you so much for watching, and have an amazing day.